Guess whose attic we're in today?
But then look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, 1970 IndyCar. Dad's in the Mark IV. Mike Park's in the Ferrari. You know that story?
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
good.
They don't know the story.
Oh, it's so good. Is anybody watching right now? And Dad's like, no, why? He's like, I think we just found the biggest gain in the last 50 years. Decided to spray the champagne, so he popped the cork and sprayed it. Henry Ford II and his wife and all the photographers, and they're like, what are you doing?
And now every F1 race. And
Now imagine no one knows I'm here. He's 18. 8 years later, he's in a Ferrari Formula One car.
if you didn't see that picture,
I wouldn't have it.
like many of you, I've got heroes in my life, and one of those heroes was a race driver named Dan Gurney. This guy was somebody so special to me as an enthusiast, as a kid who grew up on Long Island where he grew up. So we happen to be at All-American Races right now in Santa Ana, California, which was Gurney's headquarters. And if this guy looks a little bit like Dan Gurney, it's no surprise because this is Justin Gurney, Dan's son, who's invited us here to check out the headquarters and maybe some unfinished projects that the team had never completed, or maybe restoration projects. So Justin,
thanks.
I know you're a busy guy.
Yeah.
And thanks so much. So tell us where we are. What is this place?
So this is All-American Racers. We've been here since 1964. Lobby has changed a little bit over the years. You could see some things like when you walk in, we put some real bricks from the Indy 500.
So this was the headquarters. Cars were built here. Cars were fielded out of here. There's not much activity of racing here anymore. You've gone into other industries, I guess.
Yes, yeah. So around the year 2000-ish, 2001, most of our activity transferred to aerospace work.
So this is, okay, so race cars or aerospace notwithstanding, this is like the Dan Gurney museum, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
As far as memorabilia, photographs.
Yes, yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, if you'd share some of that with us.
Sure,
I'm
absolutely.
Sure
Love to, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, in fact, this picture here is there where Dad won at Spa in the Eagle, Belgian Grand Prix '67. This is 2002 or something like that, where he went back and did some laps and it was raining, and he was gassing it pretty hard too. So pretty neat pic. A lot to look at. So.
I can't imagine who's walked through these.
Oh yeah, I kick myself for not having a wall where everyone signed the wall.
Yep.
Now my parents have it at their house. They have a lampshade with all the people. So it's unbelievable the people who have been there. I wish we would have done that, but
show us a couple of.
Sure, yeah. So there's a lot of trophies at my parents' house, but some big ones that are sitting here, and I see some of them need to be polished again. But for instance, Porsche's won one Formula One race, points-paying Formula One race in their existence, and Dad won it at the French Grand Prix 1962, and that's a little trophy. He won French Grand Prix again in '64 in a Brabham, so this is a different one, but the Porsche '62 is pretty neat. This is the Daytona 3-hour race. Before it was a 24, it was a 3-hour race, and Dad won it in that Arciero Lotus right there, and you could see the start-finish line. He stopped right before start-finish. The motor exploded coming out of NASCAR 4, and he rolled down the front straightaway and had the wherewithal to stop before start-finish. Imagine if he would have rolled over start-finish and the engine's blown up, he would have lost. So somehow, and actually he, believe it or not, he gets out of the car, crawls up the starter stand, see the guy there, and talks to him and says, hey, how much longer is the race? And the guy goes, 3 minutes. And so, okay, so he went back and sat. He went back and sat in the car and waited until the guy threw the checkered. There's a guy throwing the checkered. And then people say he went over on the starter motor, and there's all sorts of controversy about that. But he told me, absolutely not. All I did is turn the wheels a little bit to the left.
And the banking?
Banking, rolled across, and won the race. And he only won by like 40-something seconds.
But what a thinking driver. Who would have thought of that?
Yeah, and actually I have a picture. This is the craziest thing. Right after he rolls down, he gets out, this guy runs over. I have a picture of a guy runs over and goes, Dan, that was the smartest thing I've seen. And it was Alan Shepard, astronaut.
Astronaut.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Oh, man.
This is the 67 Spa trophy, Belgian Grand Prix.
So how many F1 races did he win?
He won 7 Formula One races. Yeah.
And I'm looking here, stock car race.
Yeah, the Trans Am. This is that Trans Am that you drove before that. This is it.
Oh, this is the Mercury Cougar.
Yeah.
My favorite Trans Am car of all time.
So in this race, he said this was his most difficult race his entire life because of the heat. He said it was Green Valley, Texas, 67. Yeah, he said it was a 4-hour race, and Parnelli was his teammate, and Parnelli was on his butt the whole time, and he won by like 3 feet or 2 feet. He said there was holes in the firewall to cool the motor, and of course,
right on him.
Yeah, right on him. So he was dehydrated. Yeah.
So 24-hour race winner.
So this is 24-hour our GTP car.
And that was the Toyota.
Yep. Yep.
And who drove that? Was that Willie T?
No, that was Willie T. was earlier. This when we won Daytona that day, it was Rocky Moran, P.J. Jones, and Mark Dismore. This one was Dad's favorite trophy, if you could believe that. Motorcycle race, the Big Bear Run. It was called. 872 riders back there, and he got 21st out of real riders.
Desert.
Desert, yeah. Bud Eakins won the race.
Oh yeah.
So this was a big deal to him, that trophy of that.
Man.
Yeah.
What history.
Yeah.
I'm so happy
good ones.
you hung on to this because so many guys just gave their trophy
I know,
away.
right? No, yeah, and his house has a lot more. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know where you want to start here. There's a lot going on here.
So yeah, this is always a curious one for me. Tell us about this.
Oh yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, so this car still exists to this day. I know the guy who has it. So 1961, bubble top Impala, and Dad goes, you know what? I could probably run one of these in England. I think this race was at Silverstone, I think, against all the Jaguars in a saloon car race. Put it on the pole, led to the last lap, and the left rear wheel broke on the last lap.
Is that a 409?
It is. Yeah.
But this car still exists.
It still exists.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yep.
So is there anything that of your dad's career, his life, that you want to pick out here somewhere?
I mean, yeah, we can go over. First, here's my brother Alex was also a race car driver. Here he's on the pole at Daytona. I got the pole twice. The end after Dad's his first Formula One race, he's driving for Ferrari.
Is that Monza?
Yeah. In his second Formula One race, he got second place.
Man. And
Not
that
bad.
would have been a Wood Brothers?
That thing is that's his first Daytona 500. That's a
Holman and Moody car.
what's
for
it
sure.
called? Oh yeah, I guess it might have been a Holman Moody car. Yeah.
So Dan Gurney, spanned generations of types of racing. Starting in jalopies. I guess he was a hot rodder, right? Didn't he?
He was a hot rodder.
Dry lakes.
Yeah, I'll show you. There's a great picture outside of him going to Bonneville with his buddies. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And ended up in some of the most sophisticated race cars of all time.
Yeah. Here I'll show you a little bit. We ran by it. There's what we do. One of the things we do now, if you're familiar with SpaceX at all, and how they land their rockets on land or on this drone ship, they call it. We make the landing legs for the Falcon 9 rocket.
Are those carbon fiber? Or
They are carbon fiber, about 40 feet long ish. There's 4 of them on every rocket.
So if they're 40 feet long, how tall is that?
It's like that piece right there is probably like 140 feet high. Yeah.
You've come a long way, baby.
I don't know if people are familiar with that. He won the Cannonball Run, 1971, with Brock Yates and this Ferrari. And so that's like midnight right there, and they're leaving. And here they are at AAR afterwards. They brought it over and took a picture. This is in the back lot of AAR.
And so here's Jimmy Clark and your dad.
I'm going to say this is Spa 64, and Dad's in a Brabham, and ran out of gas on the last lap while leading, and parked it. And his car's over here. And then Jimmy won the race, but also ran out of gas in the same corner. So that's a great
One
picture
lap
of them.
further.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. This one's really cool. Look at this. This is Enzo Ferrari here, and Dad sitting in the Eagle. So I thought it was cool as Enzo checking out Dad sitting in the Eagle. This is a great story right here. This is absolutely. Unfortunately, there's no picture of this happening, but there is a painting and a story. Dad's in the Mark IV Ford. Mike Parks in the Ferrari. You know the story?
Yeah.
It's
Go
so
ahead.
good.
They don't know the story.
Oh, it's so good. So he said this is his 10th time trying to win Le Mans. He had won it in the Cobra and the GD class, but never overall. So he said, my 10th try, I'm going to do the race this way. I'm not going to deviate from it. He called it endurance contest. The years before, it always broke down, right? Led a ton, but broke down. Try to save the car, not overdo it. So he's on the Mulsanne here leading, and the Ferrari's bothering him, right? And he said, he goes, this would go about 2:13 on the Mulsanne, and he goes, the Ferrari could do about 2:09. So he goes, I could leave him anytime, even in the draft. He goes, he goes, but I wasn't having it. So the Ferrari's behind him, and he goes, I moved over to let him by, and he wouldn't go by, and he stayed behind me. And I moved over, and he stayed behind me. I put on the brakes, he stayed behind me. So he goes, finally I got sick of it, and I pulled over and stopped while leading, and the Ferrari pulled over and stopped behind him while leading. So first and second are just sitting on the side of the road. He kept, doing the high beams and flicking his lights, and Dad goes, nope. And he just sat there, and finally Mike Parks, for whatever reason, pulled out and took off. And then Dad passed him later and never saw him again. But
So this was Ford in 1967 winning the Le Mans 24-hour. And I remember at that ceremony for your dad at the Henry Ford Museum, honoring his career, and he mentioned that it was Briggs Cunningham that told him,
that's right.
look, if you want to win, it's not a race.
Yes.
You treat it as a race. It's an enduro.
Yep.
The last car running wins.
Yep, you're right.
So I thought that was a nice tribute.
Pretty good. Still to this day, the only overall with American car and American drivers, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So that car was built by Ford and two American drivers, Dad and AJ.
And so what did he do at the finish of that race?
Yeah, so you can see right here, he's got there's a guy here holding the bottle.
Yep.
So at the finish of that race, he said he was just overcome with emotion and so stoked that he decided to spray the champagne. So he popped the cork and sprayed it. So Henry Ford II and his wife and all the photographers, and they're like, "What are you doing?" But he said, "I was just so happy."
And now every
F1
race,
every baseball game, football game, whatever, they all do it. So
man, oh man,
pretty neat. This one too. This is the last, from what they tell me. If you're familiar with this car, 999, that Henry Ford raced in 1904, 91 miles an hour. Dad was at the Henry Ford Museum, and the guy goes, would you like to drive it? And he's like, what? Really? Yeah. So this is Dad. It's snowing that day. 18.9 liter motor, making 50 horsepower. He said, how fast should I go? And the guy goes, go for it. And if you tell Dad that, it's on.
In the snow.
Yeah, so he said he went wide open. He said the clutch engaged at like 70 miles an hour. And when it did, it blew one of these giant cylinders off. He said it flew like 20 feet high. And he goes, oh my God, I wrecked this priceless heirloom. And the guy goes, it happens all the time.
This is interesting for Dale Earnhardt and your dad.
1980, and Dad had been retired for a decade. Riverside NASCAR race. Les Richter, who ran the track, wanted to drum up more excitement for the race. He said, Dan, would you like to do a one-off NASCAR race? And Dad said, yeah, I'll do that. So his teammate was Dale Sr., yeah. This was right here, was his favorite car that we ever built.
Is that a Porsche?
No. This is a Chevy.
Okay.
But this is a 81 Pepsi Challenger Eagle IndyCar.
Well, here's a couple of famous people together. Your dad with Paul Newman.
Yeah, so that's here, right around the corner here in an office that they were filming Winning, the movie Winning, 1968. In the movie, Paul drives the Eagle, a 68 Eagle in the movie, yeah. In here is, if you want to go in here, some good stuff in here.
Yeah, sure.
I told you he won one Formula One race in the Porsche, but they actually won two. Dad won both, but one wasn't a points race, so they don't count it as
in the same
car.
Yeah.
Yep, same year. This is 62 at the Solitude, which is German Grand Prix. And if you read this, they said there was 350,000 people there that day. So in their hometown in Porsche, it was a big deal. Yeah, and I found that wreath upstairs in a box one day.
So there's the wreath around your dad at Victory Lane, and here we are 60-something years later, 62 years later. It's still
hanging. And then here's the bottle from that day at Le Mans 67.
That's the bottle.
That's the actual bottle
and so
there.
There's the picture of him spraying it.
He was also the first one to introduce a full face helmet. And he was the first guy in Formula One and IndyCar to run a full face helmet. And then over here, I don't know if you're familiar with the Gurney Flap. So
Oh, yeah.
it's on some airplanes, helicopters, and it's on every single race car that has a wing on it. They were at Phoenix, 1971. And with this car here, Bobby Unser driving. They were there all day and they weren't going very fast. And Bobby said to Dad, hey, you're supposed to be the fast guy. Can't you come up with something to help us out? And Dad said, oh, you know what? I've been thinking about this for a while. He said, on the Le Mans car, he said he played with the spoiler all the time. And he said, just changing a little bit would make the biggest difference. So he goes, why don't we just put it on the rear wing and just see what happens? So Dad did it himself. He bent up a piece of aluminum, bolted it on the rear of the wing. Bobby went out, comes in and says, something's really wrong. And they're like, what do you mean? He goes, this thing's undrivable. It pushes everywhere. And they're like, what? And so the back was
Too much downforce.
So they put some wings on the front. He did some laps. He came in and he said, is anybody watching right now? And Dad's like, no, why? He's like, I think we just found the biggest gain in the last 50 years. Yeah.
That little piece of
That
metal.
little nothing right there
Man.
makes the biggest difference. We went to Indy that year, 72. McLaren had put 13 miles an hour in 1971 on the 1970 time. Imagine. Nowadays, it's like 1 mile an hour, right? 13 mile an hour jump in 1971. We qualified third. McLarens were first and second. We came in 72 with that car, and we put 18 miles an hour on top of their 13. And we were on the pole, and McLarens were second and third. Man. People would be like, what is that? It's that thing on your wing. And Dad said, he goes, oh, we made kind of a crappy wing. It's kind of, we made a stiffener. Yep. And then he said some people would copy it and then put it the wrong way, And they
So how long did it take for the world to catch up?
I don't think it took very long. It maybe took like 3 months or something, 3 or 4 months until people started figuring it out.
Man.
But yeah.
Oh, so is this Fangio?
Yeah, that's the second. Fangio the second, and Fangio, the old man right there. Yep.
Yep. So he drove for you in the GTP car.
Yes. Yeah. 2-time champion in our GTP car. And there's Phil and Jack Brabham, and Dad. Wow. Yeah. So you asked about the hot rodding. There you go. There's a giant picture of it outside, but this is Dad here. We've been working all night. You could tell.
Oh, gee.
So this is 1950, behind Ruby's Diner in Riverside on Market Street in Riverside. He said he bought this car for $50, and his
Bonneville Express.
mom and his sister wrote that on there.
Jeez.
And they're taking this car to Bonneville, and then raced it there. He ran like 134, I think. 8 years later, he's in a Ferrari Formula One car after that. If you watch Ford versus Ferrari, they do a lot of 1966, and my brother played Dad in the movie. It's a lot about Ken Miles, the movie. Well, in Ford Ferrari, the camera's standing right here pointing at Ken Miles, but Dad's on the pole, so you don't even see him.
So he was in that car?
He's in the number 3, yep. He was leading at the 18-hour mark, and something broke. Maybe 19 hours he was leading, and something broke, yeah.
Oh, I heard about this Volkswagen race.
Oh yeah, how cool is
NASCAR?
that? NASCAR, yeah. So this is AJ and Dad, and Dad goes, my car was so good, it was ridiculous. So he goes, I got behind AJ and I just pushed him, and we just left everyone else. Every time we got to the straightaway, I would get behind him and push him, and And then he goes, when we got to the corners, AJ would put his hand up, and then Dad would back off. And then right at the end of this race, Dad just pulled out and passed him and won, and then got disqualified. They said it something, yeah, whatever.
So we can film in here?
So some things. Tell me where you guys want to point at.
I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah, you could film that if you want, and that's Rem's bench where he worked forever.
Yeah, I interviewed him for that Holman and Moody book.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was awesome, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was awesome, yes.
Told you about filming winning, right?
Yeah.
That's it right here. In fact, they're standing right here in 60. This would be 68, and this is the actual car that we're restoring down the street.
So this is where Rem worked, isn't that something? These are his tools.
Yep.
So this is Phil Remington's bench, and Phil was kind of a fabrication engineering guru for Carroll Shelby.
Yep.
And then he spent how many years at All American Racers?
He was here for 45 years.
Man. So the people watching this show, even though they dig all this stuff, it's called Barn Find Hire. What old cars pieces of old cars might you have.
But there is some stuff up there.
All right,
go look.
We'll follow you.
Okay. Okay, watch your head, okay, you guys?
Yep.
There's some really cool stuff back here.
Back here?
Yeah.
All right, good. Let's look at it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of parts. You start seeing, you know, remnants of parts. Like that's the top of a Formula 5000 Eagle right there. That's the base.
So that's
of it.
the air scoop.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah, right. The Formula 5000 had that weird air scoop. This is a GTO car, 1987. But then look at that.
Oh, look at that. I just want to touch it.
1970. Yeah, 1970 IndyCar.
And so who drove this?
Dad did.
70.
1970.
So he was going to retire in 68, and somehow it didn't work, I guess, huh? And it lasted until another 2 years.
Yeah, he stopped in 70, yep.
And this is all hand painted. This is pre decals.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that something that's all aluminum? I mean, now aluminum is like antique, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
it's all carbon fiber. So what we're looking at here in the attic of All American Racers, Dan Gurney retired from racing after 1970 season, but he ran this at Indy in 1970, and you know, so this is the body made of aluminum. The chassis is somewhere, but Justin said that, you know, this will probably be restored one day. Most racers I know, when the year's over, all that stuff is yesterday's news. We don't need to keep old race cars and old parts because we'll come up with something better next year. And here's the exception, that Dan was as much a constructor of race cars as he was an enthusiast. And why would I get rid of something that gives me great memories? So he kept these cars, he kept these parts. And now, you know, that he's gone, his sons are kind of picking up the ball and restoring these cars as Dan would love. And many of these cars are right now on display at the Peterson Museum in restored condition. Justin has kindly showed us the attic, which I really dig it. I could be up here for a day going through this stuff. But now we're going to walk down the block to another facility that is actually restoring one of the Formula One cars that was never completed for the 1969 season.
Yeah, we were building in 68. It would have ran in 69 if
And
the
why
money
was it
came.
built?
I think Goodyear was our main sponsor at the time, and I think they wanted to go just do Indy cars. They didn't want to do Formula One anymore. So the money was pulled and went to Indy.
And was that the end of your Formula One era?
That was it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately. So the car was never finished. Right when Goodyear pulled the funding for instead to go to IndyCar, they took the car and they stuck it up here, and it sat here for 50 years.
All right, follow me. We're going to take a look what that looks like. So here it is.
Yeah, here it is.
All right, so tell us what we're looking at. We heard about it before, but tell us exactly what we're looking at.
Okay, first let me show you this picture right here. Where we walked, the hallways back here with all the pictures, right?
Yep.
And then you walk out here, right? We were in that room where the picture was of the 67 dad at Monaco, right? Is right there. So this is obviously a period picture in mid-68. And this is dad sitting in this actual Formula One tub. So this would have been our 69 Formula One car. And this is the designer right here.
Is that Lynn Terry?
No, so Len Terry had left, so the new designer was Tony Southgate in 68.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. What did you have and what did you need to find?
So you could see, obviously, the tub is there, which you see. You can see this is all magnesium skin, which is a miracle that it didn't just turn to dust. But up there in the rafters must be the right humidity or whatever, where it didn't even go away. It's good.
Yeah,
you know.
No kidding.
So the tub is obviously there. A lot of these suspension pieces were all shoved in here. This was all just filled with parts and stuff. So this nose was next to the car upstairs.
So this is the old nose.
This is the actual nose. No, we did not. We had to finish it though. So when we found it, this went all the way to like here, and this went to a point. So we just finished it. And we have all the drawings that Tony did, and Tony is still around. Southgate, the designer, is still around. We still talk to him. He still does some drawings and signs them. And crazy thing, the motor. So this motor, not the motor that was in the car. This is a sample, if you will, from a Collier who owns the Spa winning car. And he let us use this as a mock-up. The real motor I actually have. And
you have it?
I have the actual motor that was meant for this car. They made it's a magnesium block. And of all things, do you know who Richard Griot is?
Oh yeah,
Griot's Garage.
Griot's Garage,
Yeah.
waxes and polishes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had our 1966 Eagle, And he posted a picture on Facebook or whatever. And in the background was a table, a V12 with a glass over it. So I call him up and I go, hey, what is that table there? And he goes, oh, it's a V12 that I got when I got the car. It came with this table. And I go, will you sell it to me? And he did. And then absolute miracle that it's the exact motor.
Complete.
No, but I have all the parts for it.
So who's going to build that? Will you build it in house, or is that Ed Pink or something? Or
yeah, no, I talked to him about it. It's being done in England at a place called a guy named Jim Stokes. They're doing the motor, and they've done a lot of BRMs and stuff that are a lot like this. So
this is a 12-cylinder Eagle Gurney Westlake engine.
Yes.
And how many of these were built, do you think? 12-cylinder.
This is a 3-liter V12. I think there was probably 6 of those motors built. I'm not exactly positive.
And you found one in the back of a
only
picture.
One.
If you didn't see that picture,
I wouldn't have it. I know it was a total miracle that we were able to get that. So.
And what kind of gearbox?
It's I think they call it a DG 300. And those are hard to find, and a friend of mine had some, and he actually donated it to the project, which was nice.
So is this some kind of wastegate or something? Or what?
No, I think that's...
Oh, this is not in turbo.
Yeah, it's oil filters. Yeah, it's normally aspirated.
Oil filters, really?
I think so. Hiro. Yeah. So Hiro Fujimori here, he's worked here since... Hiro, when did you start here? 79? 1981. Hiro, and here's been our aerodynamicist for all those years. Hiro did that car right there, and a lot of cars, GTO car, GDP, IndyCar.
Oh, look at all those models.
Yeah. So Hiro made all those models, and he's kind of in charge of documenting this thing correctly. He's found every drawing known to man with regard to this. Up in those rafters that you guys are in, we found boxes of drawings and everything related to this car.
So I hope my wife's watching this, because remember, I don't throw anything away. Sometimes it comes back to be a benefit.
Yeah, you hold it for 50 years. We might use this. Yeah. This car is all mag skins, all titanium, titanium uprights, titanium suspension, mag motor. We're thinking it's probably going to weigh something like 970 pounds.
With an engine?
With a V12 in it. Yeah, complete. It's light. Scary.
Oh man.
Scary light.
Fabulous, man. What a barn find.
Right?
In your own barn.
Yeah, so chain of custody, it's never left this place. It never left. So
it was built, it never left this facility.
Never left this facility, you know. I mean, we'll never race it, but we'll drive it around, give it one of these. Oh yeah, full runner. Full runner. Oh yeah, we'll have to go to Goodwood and do it, yeah.
If you've been watching Barn Find Hunter, I guess for 9 years now, you know, we come across a lot of rusty Corvairs and 65 Ford Galaxies lying in the woods. Well, now we're on the other side of the hobby, and you know, these are actually barn finds from the attic of All American Racers in Santa Ana, California. I mean, this was lying in an attic, magnesium-bodied Formula One car that was never finished, and Justin Gurney and his team decided, let's finish it, you know, in honor of Dad. This has been a real special event for me, and I hope the people watching. But I want to thank you for spending so much time with us.
Thank you, Tom.
This is an amazing event that we were just part of.
Thank you so much. That's very nice to say.
Yeah. And I will come. So you're going to bring this in theory to Elkhart Lake in 26?
In 26, yeah. They're having another Eagle reunion. So everyone who wants to bring their Eagles there. Yeah, so last time they had it, last year I think it was, there were 30 Eagles came, so hopefully 26, there's a lot more, and I would think this would be at the front there.
Well, save me a spot.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Happy
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.